their produce in the global market need to get the latest prices of the commodities they sell. College students use the web to get information on jobs and career opportunities. They use Facebook or MySpace to maintain and expand their social networks, relying no longer just on the phone or on face-to-face meetings. Businessmen who want to bid for government contracts can now also do so on the web, making government procurement of goods more transparent, if not yet wholly corruption-free. Ordinary people go online to find the best deals on airfares, the best buys and goods from sites like eBay. The more enlightened local governments, like Naga City, have posted a great deal of information online, including city budgets and information on city services. That's the Naga City website. The availability of so much information to so many people can have an equalizing and democratizing effect. Consumers are able to compare prices. At the same time, vendors of goods and services are able to get the best prices for their wares. By posting, like Naga City did, the delivery time for frontline services, such as the applications for permits and licenses, as well as the fees and the procedures for accessing these services, citizens do not need to hire fixers or to have special connections in City Hall. Transparency helps hold powerful institutions and individuals, both in the public sphere and in private business, accountable for their actions. The equalization of access to information has great potential for the kind of democratic renewal that we need now, when the integrity of our democratic institutions is being severely eroded and the functioning of government is weighed down by patronage, corruption, and political division. Information can help revitalize popular interest in rebuilding our damaged democracy and empower citizens with the facts they need to be able to demand change and take action in their communities. The internet facilitates the exchange of vital, empowering information. Its democratic potential is immense. Unfortunately, that potential remains largely untapped. The World Wide Web today is a vast wilderness. Many users of the web surf not for information about their governments or communities, but for pornography or online games. It is true that the relative freedom and anonymity in cyberspace have made it a haven for dissident voices, marginalized groups, and those who have been unjustly disempowered or disenfranchised. But for these same reasons, the net is also an arena where terrorists, criminals, and extremists can operate with minimal restrictions. The techno-optimists tend to see cyberspace as the panacea for all our ills. They are oblivious to the danger that the inequities that exist in the real world would be replicated online. Access to the World Wide Web is limited by the barriers of class, geography, language, education, and wealth. Even as more and more people go online every day, the digital divide is as real as poverty, illiteracy, and the lack of access to services like electricity and telephone connections. The internet will not make these problems go away. It can even exacerbate existing inequities. Age-old problems limit the liberating potential of new technologies. New technologies also bring with them new problems. Today, there rages a passionate debate as to whether the internet is responsible for declining literacy, lower reading scores, and shorter attention spans. On one hand, reading online is creating a new form of literacy where texts have no predetermined beginning, middle, or end. Instead, the reader navigates a series of links and uses search engines to find the information she needs. Reading online is a fractured experience. It involves looking for information quickly and then corroborating that information from multiple sites and sources. For sure, it is infinitely more interactive, but it is not as cognitively enriching as reading a book. There is also a certain randomness in the way we get information from the net. Most web users do not go straight into a website if they are looking for information. They search for what they need on sites like Google, or their friends send them links via email or their favorite social networking site. If they have a Yahoo account, they click to Yahoo's recommended links. The internet is a link economy. 2/3 of web traffic comes from links. In cyberspace, links are the de facto currency. The habits of information searching in cyberspace shift power to the consumer and away from the gatekeepers of news and information. We don't have to rely on the editor of the Inquirer or the news director of ABS-CBN or GMA7 to tell us what we ought to know. We can choose from multiple sources and decide for ourselves what news is important or relevant to us. These habits are radically different from those that have characterized news consumption for generations when news was a static commodity served on a printed page or aired on a broadcast. This year, the Associated Press released an ethnographic study of news consumption of young people aged 18 to 34 in cities in the US, UK, and India. These young people, the study found out, and I'm sure the young people here in the audience know exactly what they mean. It said young people had evolved a chaotic system of self-aggregation. They get news from a variety of platforms and sources all day, constantly, and are avid consumers of online video, blogs, online social networks, mobile devices, web portals, and search engines. They also multitask the news, meaning they scan the news even as they do other things, listen to the radio, watch television, drive, or do household chores. News consumption, therefore, is shallow and erratic, and it left consumers feeling frustrated and overloaded. Today's consumers, said the study, suffer from news fatigue, and they are overwhelmed by the negativity of news. Instead of becoming engaged in current affairs, they tune out. It is obvious that current models of packaging and delivering news are not connecting with the audience now coming of age around the world. Repetitive, shallow content tires the audience. News has to be delivered in innovative ways using technology, perhaps humor, and new narrative devices and structures. News, said the AP, creates social currency, meaning consumers want news that they can use to connect to friends, to look smart, to move up the socio-economic ladder, to build existing networks of relationships. In other words, to help them engage the world. Earlier this month, Marissa Mayer, the vice president of Google, told a news conference on the future of news that the unit of news consumption is being atomized. Online, most readers no longer read the entire newspaper. They look for the single news story. No longer do they view the entire newscast, but instead find the single news item that they are interested in. This atomic unit of the news, she said, should therefore evolve as the living unit, perhaps a URL where new facts, new insights, new comments are added, and that readers can follow over time. News as a living organism is a radically new paradigm, and increasingly an integral part of the task of doing journalism, of letting news evolve as a live organism, is including citizens in the process of news creation. The top-down approach to news is over. Journalists no longer have a monopoly of news production. More and more, they will be sharing the news space with citizens whose reports, opinions, and points of view will get equal billing with those of what we once called professional journalists. One expert estimates that by 2010, 2 years from now, 75% of the internet would be composed of what is called user-generated content, meaning text, pictures, audio, and video produced by ordinary people, the media once referred to as their audience. Journalism has ceased to be an exclusive priesthood whose rites can be performed only by those who have been professionally trained, either in schools or at the workplace, to report the news. The witnessing function is being performed by citizens. Citizen journalists have reported on important events like the 2003 tsunami that hit South and Southeast Asia, and the bombings in London and Madrid. They're covering the election campaign in the US. In Korea, they initiated and also reported on recent protests against the importation of US beef. You see here a citizen journalist live blogging a protest in Korea and beaming live on the web, images and reports. In Burma, images of the saffron uprising late last year that were beamed throughout the world were transmitted via mobile phones and the web by ordinary people who took part and witnessed the events. Through crowdsourcing, citizens collaborate with news organizations in the reporting of complex stories. There's also crowdfunding, where citizens make small contributions to support investigations and issues they care deeply about. The involvement of the community in news production does not make professional journalists superfluous. It makes their tasks different and in many ways more challenging. Journalists need to listen to many voices. They need to aggregate. They need to provide the context that is missing from citizen reports. They need to produce rich content providing nuance and depth. They also need to focus more on the concerns of ordinary people and to provide citizens with the information they need to be able to address their concerns. What is important is that the creation of news becomes a community effort, no longer the effort only of a news organization. We are still coming to grips with how exactly this can be brought about. The BBC, for example, has a user-generated content hub which uses special software for sorting audience email, going through audience-contributed images, and finding what among user-generated content has relevance. It is very hard to predict how things will play out in the internet. I'm a little bit nervous about talking here today because things are changing so fast. What I say today will seem very dated and out of touch in a few months. And it will be there forever in cyberspace. At any rate, I think it is reasonable to assume, and this I can say with more confidence, it is reasonable to predict that over time, the involvement of citizens and communities in news production means radical cultural and organizational changes within newsrooms. The hierarchical order of things, where the editor is commander-in-chief, will no longer survive in a world where user-generated content is an important part of the news business. Newsrooms need to be drastically altered if they are to adapt to the notion of news as a living organism produced by a community. Our fundamental notions of what journalism is and who journalists are need to be rethought. The news organizations that will succeed in the internet age are those that will embrace the possibilities offered by the new technologies without letting go of the values that have traditionally defined journalism. These values are: 1, defense of the public interest, the discipline of verification of facts, and the provision of a forum for community dialogue. Those unwilling or unable to adapt will lose their audiences. The world is full of dead companies unable